I really love the idea of micro donations, of people being able to give just a small amount and then using that to make a really big difference.
Good morning, world. Welcome to Be in the Moment. I'm delighted to be your host today as we welcome a mysterious business leader named JB. He's coming to us live from Poland. So, JB, please wish us a good morning, world in Polish.
Dzień dobry, świcie.
Hey! Well, get ready to roll out the barrel, folks. Today, we have a riveting conversation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. And how do you like the music?
I love it. It's great. I know we were talking earlier. I love music that can be ambient, but also if you want to tune into it and sort of dance and feel the vibe, you can. And this is fun.
Yes. Yes, so I think that you're a real fire starter because just simply from speaking with you, I was called to action to go ahead and produce this entire new format. So thank you for your good energy.
Wow. You're welcome, I suppose. I tend to think you probably are a fire starter who did it yourself. So let's whip the fire up and make it even bigger together.
Woo! Cheers. That's excellent. Yes. So, JB, I know that you have experience with Bitcoin and you've even completed many certificates from the BSB Academy. And you have some exciting vision for ways that micropayments can be used by a variety of entities now and into the future. But first, let's just get to know you. And tell us about where you come from.
Well, I was born in Oregon. I grew up mostly in Idaho. And then most recently, I've lived in Los Angeles. I've lived in LA longer than I've lived anywhere else. So it feels more like home to me than anywhere else does.
Yes, and so LA is a big place. But
yeah.
What part were you in and why did you decide to move there?
I lived in Venice Beach the entire time I lived there. And what brought me there was I've always been a curious person and I've always wanted to find out what was going on outside of the world that I was in. And in Idaho, I was in Idaho and I took a trip to Los Angeles and I ended up in this sort of community center where there were people from all over the world there, where there were people all dressed in their own native garb. So there were people in garments from the Middle East, from Africa, and it was just extraordinary. I was just blown away. And my curiosity was like, wow, this place is cool. This is a place where so many cultures are coming together. And that's what brought me ultimately to Los Angeles. It was a big city close to where I was from. And I wanted to be where the action was.
Wow, it's a great adventure. And you had studied theater?
Or when I moved to Los Angeles, I ended up taking some courses at the community college. And there was a theater class open. So I took that theater class as well as many other classes. And it was really fun. I really enjoy theater.
Me too. So what are some takeaways from your theater classes?
Takeaways. Well, the name of this show is a really, really good takeaway when it comes to theater. Acting generally, but specifically theater. Be in the moment. You have to be in the moment at all times. If there's any inauthenticity in the moment, that comes across. And there's this thing that all theater actors love, me included, although I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a theater actor. I haven't really actually performed much. I just studied it, but it's communion on stage. when you feel that everyone on stage with you in a scene is in that moment fully, it's palpable. And you can sense and feel people sitting on the edge of their seats. That would be my biggest takeaway.
I love it. Thank you. Yes, so I just went to see Newsies, the Lolek theater production here in Marietta, Georgia. I gave a show of the classic Disney Newsies musical. And these were all volunteer actors, and they gave a performance, like you said. It was such spirit. They were all in the moment, and they were thriving in that moment. And it was very invigorating and inspiring to be in that audience and just feel their joy as they were singing the songs and playing their characters. So I love that. That's a very good point.
Very cool. I've heard that's a great show.
It is, yes. And sometimes when I've been to plays, I feel, well, I just get up and leave. If it doesn't have that feeling, you know.
I'm with you on that.
Around. You went over to Los Angeles, and how did you make a way for yourself there in a completely new metropolis of the world?
I became a waiter. Woohoo!
All right.
Yeah, I was a server, and I've served at a lot of different restaurants in Los Angeles. It's an interesting profession. There's a lot of things about it that I'm really grateful about, or that I really love, and then there's some things that are not so great. But yeah, that's basically been the thing that I've come back to in life to sustain me is being a server.
Yes, I have been a server since I committed myself fully to Bitcoin Satoshi Vision back in 2018. I left my corporate job and did a lot of different jobs. So working as a server has been one of them. And that's why I really admire your experience, because I know that it's not for the faint of heart.
It's certainly not. And the higher up you go with the sort of restaurants you work at, the more, I guess, difficult, challenging it becomes. It's a hard job.
It is. Right. And so what are some leadership skills that you've gained from that experience?
Well, the thing that I like about being a server is it's the root word of it is to serve. And I think that service is the most important thing that anybody can commit their life to. I think it should be the basis upon which everything that everyone does is built. I think if you want to be a strong leader, you should be a servant, frankly. And that sounds bad, servant, right? Like it sounds like you're of low status, which maybe that's, I don't know, maybe there's something about that that's interesting. Maybe you should be willing to be of low status if you're in a position of leadership. But the world is upside down right now. Everything that should be is not, and everything that is shouldn't be, So we look at leadership like it's something that is done from the top. And I don't think it should be that way. I think if you want to be a good leader, you first have to be a good follower. So I've always come back to being a server because there's honor in it. You do a job, you serve people, you try to give them the best experience they possibly can. And I really just don't think anybody should be a leader unless they're able to first be a servant to those that they lead.
Yes, that's beautiful. And I think that's a form of wisdom. Now, I do have a library card, and so I did get this book recently. I haven't actually read it. I've been reading other books. But this is that famous leadership guy, Simon Sinek.
Oh, Simon Sinek.
Sinek, yes.
Yeah.
And he has Leaders Eat Last.
That's
so
right.
This book is all along this concept of, to be of service. So I agree with you. And that's why I thought you would be a wonderful guest, because over the past year, we we have had the wonderful privilege to interview many high-level leaders in the Bitcoin space. And so now I can start with someone who's a fresh pioneer, someone new that has this relevant leadership experience, but is also like a flower in bloom. Who knows what's to come with you? So it's the early days, and yeah, I'm loving to learn from you.
Well,
as well as the audience.
That's wonderful. I hope that it's prophetic, everything that you said. Thank you. And I'm really happy to be here.
Yes, let it be. Right. So then, after conquering Los Angeles, then what happened?
Well, now I'm in Poland. So the war started on February 24th. I'm a bit of a news junkie, or at least I'm recovering now. Where if I wasn't reading the AP and keeping multiple channels playing on different devices around me, I was, pacing, wanting to find out what happens next. And it's not good, to take some responsibility for it. I was making my own decisions, but, it's difficult once you get pulled into watching and staying abreast of what's going on in the world to not be worried and concerned. And my father had passed away, and that was difficult. I was having a hard time with that. It was a very, very difficult time in my life. And my dad was a really giving person. And I thought I could sit here and just be mourning and also binging on all the negative news, or I can maybe go there and volunteer. And if I go and volunteer, that'll keep me busy. I'll be with other people who also have like a hurting heart, and that will feel good to be around those people. I won't speak the language, but that's great because I won't have to talk. I can just, lift heavy things and carry them from here to there. And this will be good for me. So fast forward, I did. I came, I volunteered for a while. And I did exactly what I said. I was just picking up big boxes with jars filled with soup. It was really cold at the time, and there was this organization here called Soup for Ukraine. A lot of Polish people were just making soup like crazy. They were such givers, and they would bring them to this one central location, and we would basically like freight. We would take them, categorize them, repackage them, and then distribute them out to people who were taking them into Ukraine. So I did that for a while. And while doing that, that's when I got the idea about possibly leaving something behind when I leave that could still be helpful. And that's why you and I are talking now.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And I think of Stoicism, the Marcus Aurelius quotes. He always says to face the concept of death, because it can help you to be more authentic with every living day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like you were doing that. You seized the moment and went out to contribute. So that is amazing. And also, I'm sorry about the death of your father. I mean, that in itself, takes courage and perseverance to go through and to recover or to thrive out of that difficulty. So I'm sending you a big hug.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes.
He had a couple of coats in Idaho that were made of camouflage, that had camouflage, and so I brought those here and I gave them out. I gave them to the Ukrainian. I took them to a consulate, and actually they gave them to the Ukrainian military because they were getting so many volunteers, they conscripted all the men, right? So I thought, it's nice to know that my dad, even though he's not here anymore, his energy is still here, because right now there's somebody in Ukraine in the cold being warmed by his energy and also camouflaged from someone who might have bad intentions for them.
Wow.
So yeah, 2 people in Ukraine have my father's jackets.
That's beautiful. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you've got the champion spirit. So this is what it takes. I love it.
Well, it's what he would have wanted, so I was
Right.
happy to do it. Yeah.
I believe it. Yes, proud of you always. And how have you found it in Poland? You're meeting a lot of families that are refugees from war. So what is your experience like on a daily basis?
Yeah, wow, that's okay. There's two questions there. It's great here in Poland. It's beautiful. I love it here. There's so much to love about it, and meeting Ukrainian refugees is a bit of a challenge. But I will say, I did some volunteer work with an organization called World Relief 25 years ago. And this is an organization, I'm sure they're still around, they're huge, and they do wonderful work. And they help refugees get settled in the States, at least the chapter I was working with. And so I remember the training that I went through there, and the training is you just don't ask people about the hard things that they're dealing with, because that's private, and it's kind of inappropriate to ask them about that stuff. So I think people just, so when I interact with refugees here, I keep that in mind. And I just try to, I guess, for lack of a better term, hold space. Just be present, listen. I don't ask personal questions, but if somebody's in the mood to be playful and have fun, then be playful and have fun. But let them take the lead, and just try to be a positive presence there with them. But it is challenging. It's a good question that you ask, because it is challenging.
Wow, that's great advice too for people that want to help others. That's good experience.
I think we all need to just listen.
Mm-hmm. Listen and dance.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. I actually believe
and what's
that.
the food like?
The food is good.
I know from my studies in school that the country of Poland, they have a lot of national pride to still exist to this day. They made a great effort to do that, to maintain their country is
Right.
something that I had learned. So I think that that must be maybe even a culture shock for someone from the States nowadays. What do you think?
Well, I mean, yes, I agree. They do have a lot of Polish pride, and it's an area that has had so much has happened in this area. Historically, like you said, Poland's borders have been moving like crazy for forever. But being American is interesting, because there's so much about American culture that gets absorbed by other people in other countries, that you instantly sort of see a welcoming side to them. They really like meeting Americans, and they're very friendly. So it's been great here. I really like the Polish people. Very welcoming and inviting.
Beautiful. And I'm just sharing the screen now so we can look at the map. So
Right.
here you can see is the northwest of the United States, Boise, Idaho. It is not far at all from California there, so we can see how that was your first great adventure. And
Right, yeah. I was born in Oregon, the green one there, and then I was basically grew up in Idaho, and then sliced my way down through Nevada, down to Los Angeles, and I was home.
Wow. And so what is the earth like in that part of the world?
It's a Mediterranean climate. It's high desert. It's pretty dry, but there's lots of lakes. There's a beautiful river going right through the city. Lots of beautiful rivers in Idaho. The terrain, the mountains and the trees and everything are really stunning and gorgeous. The Santa Monica Mountains cut through Los Angeles, or rather, LA is built around them. So it's a lot of the similar type of terrain. A little more variety, though, in Southern California, because the deserts are even more deserty. You've got Joshua trees and big cactuses, things like that. Not I don't mean like Arizona cactuses, or cacti, but and then the trees. I've been to Yosemite, and some of the largest trees in the world. So the terrain is just in the entire West is so pretty.
Wow, I have imagined that. I haven't actually been there. I've been to LA once. I went slow motion jogging on Zuma Beach.
Okay.
But that was the extent of it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful place.
Yes. So here we have the map of Europe, and we can see that you are now there in Poland. So you are on the border with Lithuania and Germany, Russia, Belarus, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Ukraine.
Yeah, not Russia though. Belarus, but Russia is does not border Poland.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay,
No.
on this map, see, that's the thing with maps. We need to know which map is it today.
Right.
There is a little spot there, just south of Lithuania.
Is it Belarus?
No, it's just north. It's due north of Warsaw, on the border of the Baltic Sea, the south of Lithuania. So anyway, we'll have to ask a professor. How are the people coming across the border from Ukraine? Are they walking? Are they driving? What have you seen?
The train stations have been really full. I started out in Warsaw, and this was early on as well, when there was millions of fleeing refugees. So that's what I've seen is the train stations. I think for a while the trains were free. I did meet some people who were putting together an organization to go down and pick people up from the border and bring them in, and they actually sort of explored that as something they would do and decided not to because everybody was coming out on trains.
Okay. And then with the document processing, do they have any documentation or passports or ID?
Yeah, everybody that I've talked to they brought their passports and their documentation. There's been a lot of people going back and forth. In the very, very beginning, people were fleeing, and there were issues with people not having their documents because they were just trying to get away from the conflict. And there's been enough time now for people to go and either go back and get them or to figure out how to make do without them. And then once it became known that everybody needed those, anybody that left was bringing them with them. So everybody that I know, everybody that I'm meeting, they have all their documents.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so then there's the new phenomenon with people returning back to their hometowns. So why would they do that?
It's difficult here in Poland. I can't really speak for the other bordering nations or the other greater countries in Greater Europe that are taking in refugees, but I can talk about some of the challenges here in Poland. Housing is an issue. There's not much housing available when you've had, at one point, I think it was up to 4. I've seen conflicting numbers, 4 million. I've even seen as high as 6 million refugees all pouring into Poland. All the housing goes away. I was a part of that as well because I was always looking for a place to stay. When I got here, I was staying in hotels, but you can only really stay in a hotel for a limited amount of time before you need to move to another one or something like that. And there was this period of about a month or two where the bookings were just getting fewer and fewer to be able to book something. So I would be in a place for 2 weeks, and I would, usually in the beginning, it would only take a few days for me to find the next place to go. And after the constriction of availability was at its peak, I would get a place for 3 days, and immediately I would have to start seeking the next place. So I would spend almost all of my time in a hotel room looking for the next hotel that I could go to or something, So
Wow.
That's the biggest challenge, is housing. And as a result of all of the housing going away, the price of housing here has skyrocketed. I've seen it double, more than double. It's probably about triple what it was before. And this is a piece of this is pain that is felt because Ukraine. People from Ukraine have been to Poland enough. There's a lot of people going back and forth. There's a lot of Ukrainians that have lived in Ukraine before this conflict, that they're used to prices being a certain thing. And once those prices go up 3 times, it might price them out. Accommodations, costs, and then ultimately the biggest thing that I've seen is a lot of Ukrainian mothers with small children can't really survive. So availability of what I've done is I've partnered with a local organization here made up of a bunch of Polish citizens who came together to help Ukrainians. They're really great people. They've got a really great space here. And together we talked about sponsoring some of these mothers who have infant children so that they don't have to carry their babies back into a war zone. And so what I've come up with is something I'm calling VIC. VIC is a fundraising protocol. It stands for Voluntary Incremental Community Contribution. And here's how VIC works. In this example, for instance, the charity that I'm starting now, if you wanted to raise support for refugee mothers that have fled war-torn Ukraine into Poland and have infant toddlers that can't be away from them, then VIC is a great protocol to use. These mothers are not able to work. Since they need to be able to provide for themselves and their family, if they can't work, they're going to have to take their children back into a war zone. So what we want to do is help them survive long enough for their babies to grow old enough to be able to go to daycare so they can work. Working with a local organization, we have identified an amount of money that each of these mothers need to have in order for them to survive. It's not enough to survive, but it's enough to keep them from having to flee back to Ukraine. 600 Polish zloty. 600 Polish zloty is about 150 American dollars. If we use VIC, then we can actually invite donors to give just a little bit. Each donor does what they can to contribute a small amount. And by doing so, it reveals social momentum that's building for the cause to donors to come after them. So the first donor commits $1. That's all, $1. But that dollar has tremendous impact because it gets the engine started and shows other donors coming in behind them that engagement has begun. It provides social proof and it invites more. Then each donation increases incrementally. The next is $2, then $3, and so on. By the time a donor commits $10, more than 5 times that amount has been raised, all because someone started with $1. By the time a donor commits $17, our charity will have exceeded the $150 target that we were after. Using VIC, donors can see and understand how much adoption there is toward a cause and choose to engage in a way that's affordable but also communal. And each community member, though they may never meet, will feel a sense of connection with other community members, just knowing that they all work together toward the common cause. Plus, with VIC, each community member will receive photos of the family they're helping, learn about them, and be able to see and sense that their contribution is actually making a difference. Let'sGoBananas.io is where we will show you all how the sausage is made. Everything that's going on with the charity that we're running here to help mothers. I do hear from so many people back in the US about how they can help. And all this tension, all of this stress, all of the news junkies like me that were like, what can I do? What can I do? If there's no outlet for that, it just remains in the body as stress and tension. And hopefully this can provide an outlet for people to feel like, oh, I'm letting this stress go and alchemizing it into something positive. I really love the idea of micro donations, of people being able to give just a small amount and then using that to make a really big difference. So the idea is for us to basically do like a sponsor a family program. And eventually, once we prove concept, I would like to do this on the BSV blockchain because BSV is the ideal way to show the world in the charity sector that they can save money on fees, they can have faster processing, send money faster, and also for donors to be able to see that the money that they're sending is going where they want it to go.
Fantastic. I feel like this is an original use case of the protocol, BSV, because like you said, you're having that proof of work. Where's our donation going? You can follow it through. And with the power of microtransactions, we could all donate what we could afford. So
right, and that's
cents. If we sent 25 cents, all of those pennies add up.
Exactly, and that's the problem with charities right now, or at least, I can only speak through an American lens, but having been here, I've had a lot of people contact me from the States and ask me how they can help. And what I've noticed is a lot of people are feeling paralyzed about how they want to give their money, because a couple of things. There's a lot of distrust. People don't know if the money they're giving to a charity is actually going to be used for the purposes they want it to be used. And that's understandable. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of small charities anymore either. I could be wrong about that. I'd like to see some of the data, but I wonder if charities have become kind of a big business. And I say that because there's a lot of tax incentives that people get from them. So have they sort of aggregated toward being these monstrosities that people are giving to? And another thing that I think people are frustrated with is they don't know where their money's going, but they also don't see the impact. They don't get that connection. Like I think used to exist. You sort of just give your money and then you just hope that it does something good. And for me, I've given in the past and I've had this itch that never really gets to be scratched. Like, what did this do? And so what we want to do is like I said, like a traditional sponsor family program where people get photographs. They get to learn a little bit about each person in a family and get that sort of heartwarming benefit of knowing that that's where their money's going and these are the people that they're helping.
Wow. And could it be wallet to wallet, where if a family in Ukraine is set up with a hand cash wallet, and then I as a donor am connected with them, I could see it going to their wallet, and then they could then show purchases made with it?
Ultimately, that's what I want to do, yes. Some of the bigger charities are so amazing with what they're capable of doing with money, and they take such a small amount to run their operations. But that's not always the case, right?
Right.
And I think if somebody's donating money, they should be the ones to decide where that money goes. So if you're going to click on something and say, I want to give this to this person or this organization that's doing this thing, wouldn't it be better if you could give it, like you said, directly from wallet to wallet? And if when you click, there's something that pops up that says, are you interested in also supporting the organization that's behind making this all work? You can click that button too, but ultimately you should be empowered to decide where your money's going. You shouldn't have to send it to some big organization and then just wonder whether it's going to actually be used for what you wanted it to be used for. So ultimately, again, once we prove concept, I would like to build out a system and scale it so that it can reach a lot of people, and do it with BSV. And do it in a way that it does go wallet to wallet, peer to peer. People can see where their money's going. They can verify it online. Nobody can make a claim that, how powerful will it be to be able to ask people to donate and say, look, this isn't even going to touch my hands. This is going to go directly to this cause, and you can verify that yourself.
That's a paradigm shift. I would love to introduce you to Isaac Morehouse. Have you ever watched his podcast before?
No, not yet.
No? Well, I personally don't know him, but he does have a series called What's the Big Idea with Tiny Payments? And I think that you might be a great person to speak with him further about your concept. Also, he's a successful entrepreneur and just an original business maker that could also give great insight. I know he's got a real generous attitude towards the people that are building in BSV. So I think that might be good. I'll just try to reach out independently and connect connect you to.
That would be great.
Talk
I've already
more
written
about-
down what's the big idea with tiny payments. I love that title.
Yes. Yeah, it's really cool.
And Isaac Morehouse. So that would be fantastic. Yeah. The stage that we're at right now is on Saturday. I'm signing up 20 mothers with infant children. We're going to interview them. We're going to take photos of them, and we're going to start cataloging everything. Right now, we're going to use legacy systems and just raise money. Again, just sort of trying to prove concept that we can do this. We'll use Vic, and we'll go from $1 to $17. We may do another version of it where we would only have to go to $9. This is one where it's still, each donation goes up incrementally, but the increment is once we have everything we need for the trial and we prove concept, that's when we'll go further and we'll build everything out.
And what are the ways to pay today for anyone that's interested?
I don't know. I hate to answer that way. Forgive me, but we're in the beginning of this trial program. I've got a website that I'm currently working on put together through Shopify. I'm going to be linking the organization that I'm partnered with, a merchant account that I set up either through Google or through PayPal, and we'll just pay the fees for now. The fees for both. And know that in the future, when we do convert this over to BSB, most of those fees are going to just disappear, So, we do have some needs, and that's one of them is figuring out how to build out the website. I'm working on it, and I've got some people working with me too. But these are things that that are in the works as we speak.
Super cool. And I've put it there on the screen. I believe it's www.letsgobananas.io. Is that correct?
Yeah. So letsgobananas.io is going to be the place where I'm inviting people to come and participate in sort of the behind the scenes stuff that's happening here, keeping them abreast of what's going on. I will probably have a wallet where people can donate if they want to helping us build it out. There's two different ways people can donate, right? Somebody will be able to donate once we have everything up and running on our website. The website that we're going to be hosting the Sponsor a Family program on, which is going to be everylittlebithelps.io. But we're not launching yet, so it's better to talk about Let's Go Bananas right now. Let's Go Bananas.io is where people will come if they wanted to donate to help get everything built out, for us to scale everything, if they want to see the progress that's taking place. And most importantly, this is what I want Let's Go Bananas to be. I want it to be a place where people are ready to just sign on and go bananas with us using social media to get the word out about these mothers so that we don't have to, so we can solve this issue of them having to carry their babies back into a war zone. Because that, I think, is going to be the biggest driving force that we need is people to spread the word. If people are sharing this on Facebook, Instagram, once we launch, then I believe there are a lot of people in the States and all over the world who are going to want to pitch in and help. One of the inspirations behind doing this is that I have a friend in the U.S. Who is Ukrainian, and she's such a gifted and talented person. And she was a refugee in 2001. So she came from Ukraine to the U.S. She actually landed in New York City on September 11th in the morning of 2001.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Right. And she is, now she's a multidisciplinary visual artist, and she can do anything when it comes to, if it's building a website, if it's making a film, if it's doing a podcast, if it's, visual art, animation, graphic artist. She's a graphic artist, and she's really, really talented. And for her to get through college, she was a beneficiary of charitable contributions. And so I know this person who's an adult person who does these amazing things, and she's so giving in her community. Everybody sort of relies on her because she's so generous. She's just this big positive force for everyone. And knowing that there are infants right now here in Poland that are going to be able to grow up and become human like that means that I think that it's in our best interest to try to help those people have the best chance that they can, you know?
Yes. Wow, how exciting. Well, please introduce me to your friend. I'd love to learn from her as well.
I will, for sure.
You can send it, off camera if you like. And,
yeah, okay, I will.
One thing that I'm struck by is how people that will donate can feel empowered, because so many times, like you mentioned with news junkies, watching the news, we can feel so down and defeated. But if there's a way for us to affordably donate, then we can have a sense of feeling empowered. We can say, well, I myself am hustling over here, but let me send you 25 cents with the power of micropayments, or with your initial VIC system. Let me send $1. Let me send $9. This is something that at least many Americans would jump at the chance to do. So prior to going on chain or being built out on BSB or Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, how will you have accountability as an organization to show that the VIC payments are going to the families in need?
Let's Go Bananas.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're going to be doing that. Let's Go Bananas is going to be the behind the scenes view of what's going on. And, unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to hold a phone and use a camera to show, open up an account on a computer and show where the money is going, as opposed to being able to go to what's on chain and for people to do it anytime they want, whenever they want. But you're right. I think everything you said is so on point, especially the part about people wanting to have something that they can feel that they're making a difference, a way to express themselves where they get to feel that they're making a difference instead of just wondering if they're making a difference, But yes, accountability is important. Transparency is important. And that's my highest value in this is being able to maintain and keep that. So until we're able to do it, to systemize it, it's going to have to be done manually.
Right. And, you can always reach out to me. I've got the StreamYard studio. So if you want to go live, I can just let you use that. So.
Excellent. That would be great. That'd be perfect, actually. Yeah.
There is a group called Soundoshi. They are from Poland, and maybe you could connect with them at a local meetup. I know also the CoinGeek Bitcade. They hosted an event in Warsaw, Poland just a couple weeks ago. So there is a big network there in Poland already, and I hope you could have some meetups or meet some of your fellows there, and then they can inspire you just like other people. I'd love to connect you there with Isaac Morehouse and also the women of BSB and all my friends like Brittany Bits podcast. Definitely spread the word locally with my friends here about you and what you're doing, JP.
I will take it.
What do you think of that?
Let's Go Bananas. Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it. All of the help that we can get, all the exposure that we can get would be fantastic. Isaac, all of the other, the women of BSV and the other podcasts that you mentioned would be great. I'm going to work on building everything here. And then once we're able to launch, we just, all the help that we can get will be wonderful.
And how did you discover BSV?
That's an interesting story. It was the end of last year, and I had some cash, and I wanted to find a place to put it. And I saw inflation coming. I mean, who didn't, right? And I didn't know about putting it in the stock market. I was worried about that. Real estate to me looks like it's risky. And so, there's this asset class of crypto that I decided, why don't I take a look at this? And I thought, I know people personally who've made money trading crypto. So I started learning how to trade crypto. And when it came time for me to deposit my money into an account and start actually doing the trading, I balked. I just couldn't do it. And the reason I couldn't do it is because I've been hearing for years how the future is going to be built on blockchain. And I thought, how long does it take for the future to arrive? Because it's been years and I don't know about anything that's been built on blockchain. Where are all these builders? Where is all of this stuff that's being built? And I just had this sort of epiphany where I realized it feels like the world is going insane right now. And in that moment, I thought I've joined them and I'm a little bit insane to think about doing this because what am I thinking? And in that moment, I remembered that I had been following the news on a lawsuit that was going on in Florida when it started, but I hadn't checked in on it. And so I thought, I wonder if that lawsuit is over. It's got to be over by now. Let me go find out about that, because that will tell us who the mastermind of all of this is. And I checked on it and I was astounded. A court, a United States court, a jury made a decision. This means something. And so I went and I started looking at interviews. I started watching interviews of Craig Wright. The first one I saw was the BBC, just the snippet on the BBC. The second one I saw was on a channel called, I think, Infotainment or something like that.
Oh, right. I love that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I immediately, I'm not kidding when I tell you this, I immediately saw Craig, heard a couple of words come out of his mouth, and instantly said, oh yeah, he's definitely Satoshi. And the reason for me is because he was so angry. And I thought the only reasonable thing to be, if you're the person who created this whole thing, is to be angry right now with what's going on, And then everything he said just made sense. He talked about building. He talked about it being plumbing. He talked about all of the ridiculous ideas that people are saying about what it is are wrong, and it's basically the opposite. And so it was pretty clear to me. I guess I had the benefit of being able to show up to the party late after everything had happened and had a fresh set of eyes. So I hadn't invested in a bunch of sort of micro beliefs that people led me to believe that I thought were true, So in that way, maybe I had an advantage, but it's so obvious that I just thought, okay, it's time for me to start learning about this. And what I really love about it, what I love even now, and this is my you might have seen this on my LinkedIn, it says, let's build, it's about building. Mm-hmm. It's not about speculation. It's not about hype. It's not about any of the BS and any of the craziness that's going on in the world. It's about, let's build things that work. Let's build things that contribute to the betterment of mankind. And, let's do that and also make some money.
Right. Carpe diem. I love it. That's great. Wow. So do you feel that that your story then, that led you to the BSB Academy? Is that what happened next?
For sure. Yeah. The next thing I did was, I was looking for interviews. There wasn't a lot of interviews at the time on YouTube. And so I decided, at that time, the CoinGeek website had a lot of videos on it. So I went there. I remember seeing a button that said, buy BSV. And I had no idea what BSV was. And so it was an odd thing to see every once in a while. I was just like, what is that? What is that? And it was, I admit it also, it was a little bit difficult to learn about BSV and Bitcoin because the videos there wasn't a lot of context. So, but that is where I started. And I ended up at the Bitcoin Association website and I saw that there were free classes or free, what would you call them? Free program? Free...
right, courses.
I guess, yeah. Free
courses.
Free courses. And I thought, I need to, I'm certainly not going to show up to some meetup someday and try to network with people if I don't have the ability to show some proof of work on my end as well, so I need to learn. And this is free. It's right here. Let's dive right in. And I did. They're free. Why wouldn't, everyone should. It's easy. Take some time. But I learned a ton from it. I have a pretty solid understanding on a general, like a macro view of what BSV is. And I have to thank those courses for that.
Wow, and you showed follow through to actually complete them. So that's something a lot of us that have been talking away all about BSV for a year or more haven't even done.
Oh, really?
So,
well, I was pretty obsessed.
You, JB. Right.
Yeah,
I
was
still
pretty
need to
obsessed.
finish my certifications, and I know there's several others that do too.
Yeah, well, you guys got to get on it.
Right. Yeah, you see, you're the fire starter. We're running after you there. So, yeah, after today, I will revisit that goal. Maybe I'll make that on the Anna app by George Sio Samuels. He has the HONA.app, Anna app, and you can set a goal and make a wager in Bitcoin, BSV. And then as you have the accountability through that website, you post your proof of work every day or every week as you have set the goal to, then you could keep your money. But if you fail on your goal, then the money goes into a pot, which then could go to a charity of your choice. So the Anna app might also be another one for you to check out and maybe partner with in the future.
That would be great.
So
I mean, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, for sure. So yes, now JB, I'm thrilled to meet you, and we've come to our time goal today. So I wonder, do you have any closing questions or ideas, remarks?
I can't think of anything more. Any questions or anything like that at this point? No.
All right. Well, I am thankful to you, and I'm happy to be your friend and help you out, and also network with you more and more. So welcome into the scene, and hope you can meet many more of the bright stars here in the BSV Society, and we can all become stronger together.
Excellent. And I want to thank you as well. You've been so warm and inviting, and I feel honored to be your first guest. And it's easy to see that you're one of these people who likes to bring people together and create community, and you exude that. So I really appreciate your having me on today.
Thank you, JB. Thank you so much. And to our audience, if you like this video, please do click on the like button, as well as subscribe to the channel, Rory Zimmerman with Be in the Moment. Also, you can follow letsgobananas.io to get involved with JB and his team in Poland. So thank you, world, and we look forward to being in a moment with you again soon. Bye.
Dziękuję.